Well, my name is King Houndekpinkou. I'm a French ceramic artist. I'm based in Paris, France, and I base my practice around the vessel shape. I take a lot of inspiration from the Voodoo altars from Benin in West Africa, which is the country of my heritage, or where my parents come from. And I'm very inspired by the textures that the Voodoo altars have, which are textures that are basically poured by the priests and the people that want to connect with the gods, and they put offerings and libations and liquor and food onto earthen structures. I'm very inspired by those, sort of like divine spiritual textures that are basically done with the only intention of connecting with the God, but not with an aesthetic purpose. And I'm very attracted to that. And that visceral aspect you can find in my work. That's why my work is highly textured. I like to add a lot of clay, a lot of glaze on my pieces, and they often become very, very heavy. And for me, it's a way to express where I come from, and also express, my need for visceral interaction with the material. And another part of my work is about blending clays from different countries, and mainly from Benin and Japan, in order to give a new perspective on ceramics and what ceramics can actually do in terms of blending cultures and soils and clays together. That's a huge message. Taking a clay from one country and another, and blending them together to make one piece is a very strong message. Well, Terres Jumelles is a project that consists in fostering cross-cultural communication between Benin and Japan through ceramics. It's been going on since 2016, and so far I've done 3 chapters. There's been 3 parts of that project. And so the way it happens is every year I go to Benin, and I meet a local potter or ceramic artist or someone that works with clay, and I interview them, I document their work, and I write about them. I do a short documentary, and then I take their clay and I travel with it and bring it to Japan. And in Japan, again, I meet a new potter on a new sites, ceramic sites or pottery sites, and I also do the same work. I document, their work, and I do interviews, and I do short videos and documentaries, and I take their local clay and I blend it with the one from the Beninese sites. That project has been going on since 2016, and so far I've done 3 twinnings. The first one was between the village, the pottery village from Se in southwest Benin, and Bizen in Japan. The second one was with Shigaraki and Ngwegame, and the third one is with Tamba in Hyogo Prefecture, and Cotonou with an artist called Glede. Well, my inspiration for the project comes from Bizen in Japan. I started to go to Bizen every year since 2013. And there, I would see my friends, my close friends from there, practice, the ceramics of Bizen, and they had a certain attitude to it, which was very respectful towards the materials and very respectful towards the clay and the kiln, and every time before firing they would do a prayer to the kiln god to have to get a good firing. and they would drink sake and they would put salt and rice on the kiln. And to me, that mysticism was very reminiscent of the Voodoo culture and spirituality from Benin. And Benin is the cradle of Voodoo. And so I've noticed that somehow the way my friends were making ceramics in Bizen was also infused with the Shinto animist spirituality also. And to me, it was an epiphany. It was a revelation. Oh, this is incredible. Like, these two countries are far from one another, seem very different culturally. However, they seem to share something very similar in terms of their animist belief and you know, their relationship with, you know, with the matter and with the materials and the four different elements. And Voodoo is a belief system that is based on the four elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Somehow, I felt like there was a very strong bond between both countries spiritually, and therefore I felt the need to materialize that feeling into a project, which is Terres Jumelles. Well, my parents are from Benin, and they came to France in the 80s, and that's where I was born. I was born in the eastern suburb of Paris called Montreuil. And Japan came to me through the Japanese pop culture that was expanding rapidly in the 90s in Europe. So I was introduced to Japan through manga and through video games and Super Mario and Zelda and Nintendo. And when I was younger, when I was a kid, I would play these games and I wanted to know who makes them. I wanted to know the people behind those games, and therefore figured that it was, you know, mostly Japanese game studios. And that was my first door to the Japanese culture. Well, there are a few challenges, very few. One of them is the language barrier. Sometimes it's difficult because my Japanese is not so good, and I don't understand all the dialects from Benin, so I often need someone to translate for me during interviews. And also, sometimes it takes time for people to open up themselves and give, you know, personal insights, whether it's on their practice or their lives. But I would say in the end that because I'm also a ceramic artist and I work with clay, there's something, there's a certain universal language that you all speak when you work with clay. And that is magical. Yes, I do pretty much everything by myself. I don't have a team with me to film or to do the pictures or to write or edit the videos. So I do everything by myself. And at some point, I think I'd love to have a team of people I work with to make things easier, especially in terms of logistics. But I do have some help from people when I travel. For example, when I need someone to translate interviews for them, then I have, you know, someone that, you know, local that speaks the language and speaks, you know, French or English also, that helps me to to do the interviews, for example. There are many memorable moments. I would say My favorite one was my first interview in Benin with the chief potter of the village of Se, who is Miss Adanglo. And I asked her a very silly question and asked her if there were no more clay to work with, what would she do? And she said that she would travel to Bizen to get the local clay from there, come back to Benin and work with it. And bear in mind that this woman has never left Benin, never traveled to Asia. And for me, it was very touching to hear that from her, because she kind of got the spirit of the whole project, which is being connected with other culture that also work with clay, being connected to other artists, other potters, regardless their culture, the language that they speak, or their customs, whatever. We are all connected, and we can all dialogue and converse through clay, which is our primary material as a ceramic artist. And that was a very, very touching and memorable moment for me. Well, I truly look forward to present this project at the 10th Korean International Ceramics Biennale, because it would be the first time for me participating in the Biennale, and also sharing about that project on such a large scale. I truly look forward to get people's feedback and continue the conversation about what ceramics can do in order to improve our lives and help us, live together in better ways. And also, I have applied at the for a membership at the International Academy of Ceramics with that project. And if the application goes through and I'm a member, I think it will be a great opportunity for the project to grow further in the future. I truly look forward to meet everyone at the Ceramics Biennale in South Korea and continue the conversations about how ceramics can help us improve our lives and help us live together in better ways. So this is the day we're opening the kiln. Today we're opening the kiln and everybody is here. This is Matano-san. This is Shibuta-san. And this is Uchida-san. And me. So,
okay, preparation of unloading.
Unloading.
Preparation.
Good.
We need a preparation.
Let's go.
Preparation.
Yes. Oniba. Let's go.
割り木の上に座ります。
割り木様、お粘土様と割り木様。
割り木を足で切る。
そんなこと言うけど、積み上げるときには登ったりするもんね。
ヘリクツでそういうことになるわけだの。どっちもヘリクツなんですよ。
Jung was a great traveller, and he made a point of visiting cultures as far different from Europe and from Switzerland as possible. I mean, he went to India, he went to North Africa, he went to Kenya, and he spent time with the Native Americans in the southwest of the United States. Why? Some people say he was trying to prove the existence of the collective unconscious, and maybe he was, but one of the things he was doing, it seems to me, was building bridges between Western perspectives and non-Western perspectives. Of course, he made all kinds of mistakes. He idealized these so-called primitive, which a word nobody uses anymore, but he used, primitive cultures. Nevertheless, if you actually go into why he did this and what he saw the collective unconscious as doing as an idea, he was finding out something wrong about the West. He traveled to these exotic places to look into all these motifs and rituals and religious practices so different from Europe, not to collect anthropological material about India or North Africa, but to throw light on what was going wrong in 1920s and 1930s Europe. That's a profoundly humane and indeed political project, and that, I think, is one way of understanding how Jung used the idea of the collective unconscious to build these bridges.
Belisa,